My name is Dominic, and I'm one of the leaders here. And so it's always such a privilege to get together and to learn and to grow. And this time of year for some people too is a time where they're kind of exploring like what they really believe about Christmas. I know a lot of people that love like the Christmas season, but they just don't believe in God. And so that's very common in our culture because of Christmas movies. Maybe you're married to somebody who tricks you into watching cheesy Christmas movies. Any of you? Yeah, I am married to that kind of person. And so Christmas is kind of weaved into like a lot of things in our culture. So what we try to do when we get together is to listen at a different pace at the things that God might want to teach us this year. And so last week, Pastor Mateo did a great job at just introducing us to this important idea that God at Christmas asks us this question: what do you want? Did you take some time this week to just work that out? I had a little bit of time where I was like, what do I really want? Thanks, bro. What do I want? And I noticed something in my life. I don't know if you've noticed this in your life, that sometimes I want the wrong things. Not always, but sometimes. And this morning I want to talk a little bit about what it means that God puts us in places where we learn to want the right things. That Christmas is not only a God that says, hey, this is what I'm here to do for you, and here's what I'm about to do, but I'm going to reorient some things inside of you so they're going to learn to want the right kinds of things. And I want to begin by asking you a very simple question. I want you to think of a time in your life when you got a gift that you didn't want. Just think about that. Think about the last time you got a gift. You remember you had to do that face like you liked it, but inside you're like, what a piece of junk? Like that moment. Think of the moment when you think of, I got something, and I was like if you practice now, it'll be easier in a few weeks when you do gifts. That we're about preparing you for not to have conflict in your family. So just try that moment. Think of it like, I thought about this week, and I thought one of the moments where I really had I don't want this gift was when I got my wedding gifts. Any guys, you get gifts? I don't know if you remember. I'm not that old. I still remember a little bit of the wedding gift stuff. My wife got all these trinkets and plates and cups. I'm like, what are we going to do with this? Can we sell this on Kijiji? Like, why do we have this? But you got to do the card, right? Thank you for the gifts. And I'm always like, let's put P.S. How do I use this? What's this for? Right? And it's true. One of the most essential questions that we feel when we get a gift is this: how do I use this? What is this for? That's really important because at Christmas, we kind of feel how weird it is for God to say, I have a gift for you. It's coming in the form of a baby. And we all what do we do with this? How do we use this gift? How does it work? And so at Christmas time, one of the things we really wanted to do, and the series is really about how we rethink what it means that God gives us gifts. That there's a God who wants to give us gifts, but He gives us gifts by correcting something that is so common in our culture. That when we get gifts, we often think about this gift is only worth something if I know how to use it. Is it useful to me? Am I going to be able to use it in some way? Because if it's not, what do you often think? I'm going to either throw it or garage sale it. Like whatever, right? You're like, this is only useful if I know how I can use it. And at Christmas, God says, I have a gift for you that you can't use. It's a gift that comes that teaches you that God wants to use you. And you know what? That should bother you. If that doesn't bother you, you don't really understand Christmas. It should bother you because Christmas is the time when God enters and disrupts everything about how the world works. The world understands what it means to give us gifts that we can use. But God's like, you have to understand that the gift I'm about to give to you, you won't really understand the meaning of it, the beauty of it, until you enter this story. And so we're left with this moment where the story of Christmas and the meaning of Christmas is wrapped around this gift moment where we're like, how do we really use this gift of Christmas? Like, how do we really use a baby and Jesus and a story? How does it kind of work itself into our lives? Now, I want to tell you this morning, I'm going to warn you, okay, about something. That as we talk and learn together, I'm going to teach you some new words. Okay? Everyone okay with that? Now, if you're not, that's fine. But if you're here and you thought, hey, I came to learn, then I'm going to teach you a few new words that maybe you've never heard before. There's some words that are going to be different, but they're really going to help you understand and maybe really be open to the Christmas story in a new way. Okay, so that's what I hope to do. And if you want to take notes or you're into tweeting or whatever you want to do, you can do that. So just feel free to do that. If I see you with your phone, I'll assume that you're taking notes. Wink, wink. Okay, I could see a lot from up here. Okay, so So I just want to encourage you to just kind of be open. So I want to tell you one word that is easy to miss, okay? Anytime in the Bible where people forget that God is not someone you use, they have entered a new relationship with God, which is creating God and being, the best way to say it is to imply that God is an idol that they can use for their own benefit, okay? So Christmas is the time where God deals with idolatry in our lives. Okay, so just think about that. If it's not clear to you this morning how you can use the things that you're going to get, you just don't come back. You're like, how is this going to work? Is it for me? If it's not, I'm not coming back. Okay, that means that we naturally live in a world that teaches us that we're consumers. We consume things. And if we don't know how we can consume something, we're like, this is annoying. It's wasteful, waste of money. So in the Bible, you have to understand that whenever the people in the Bible have forgotten that God is not a God that you can use for your own benefit, they've kind of started to make God into an idol, because idols were the ability to use gods for one's own benefit, okay? Easy word. Can anyone just say idolatry? Idolatry, okay? Very, very simple. And you need to know this word to understand Christmas. You really need to. Because there's one writer in the Bible that introduces us to the Christmas story by making reference to a form of idolatry. Now, if you don't know much about the Bible, you don't have a Bible, we say this often, we'd love to give you a Bible for free. We have them here. Come see us. We'll give you one. The Christmas story is really much lives in two gospel narratives in the Bible. Two basic writers will talk most about the Christmas story. One writer's name is Matthew, and another one's name is Luke. And they're going to do their best to tell us about the ins and outs and weaving of the story of Christmas in so many different ways, right? And they're going to try to highlight different things. So if you want to do this, it's just an invitation. Over the next few weeks, you can just say, I'm going to try to read. You might not understand it all, that's okay. But I'm going to try to read, like in Matthew and then Luke, how the Christmas story kind of develops. And kind of how it emerges. And so we're going to do like a little test together, okay? I have some slides you're going to see in a second. I have some words on the screen. And I want to see if you can notice the next word that I want to teach you this morning. And it's a word that Matthew will use at the beginning of the Christmas story. Matthew's going to use this word 4 times to make a point. Okay, when you see a word multiple times, like anything, like we do in our culture, right? When we use a word constantly, it's trying to emphasize something. So take 30 seconds, you're going to go to the slide and see if you can see what the word is. And when you know it, put your hand up when you see the word. It's an easy quiz. None of you this Christmas will get a Christmas card that has the word deportation on it. None of you. If you do, that's weird. You need new friends. Okay? No Christmas movie you watch is going to have the word deportation in it. Right? But it's an important word that Matthew tells us you have to kind of know a bit of this story to understand what God is about to do. Now, if you have a different Bible, maybe the one we have here, different translations use the word exile for deportation. Just a different word. But this is an important way that Matthew wants the Christmas story to begin. He wants you to understand that you have to know a little bit of the backstory before Jesus can make sense. Now, I was watching TV the other day, and how many of you have ever seen the commercial for Ancestry.com? Anyone? I thought, and it was like for Christmas. It's like, oh, buy someone their DNA story, right? I'm like, wait a second. That's exactly how Matthew starts the Christmas story. Matthew's like, hey, before we go any further, you should know how we got here. And so many people today are like, well, that'd be really cool to find out who my relatives are, where I was born, and kind of the backstory of my family and a family tree. So Matthew's like, I need to tell you a word that reminds us what happened to the people of God when they thought idolatry was okay. You get it? He's like, let me just tell you, you have to know this. You have to know idolatry, and you have to know deportation. Okay? And the reason you come to a church, the reason we learn, is because it takes time to think about this together. You're not just going to see it in some Christmas show. It's not going to happen. Disney's not doing a movie on the deportation, or whatever, of something. It's not going to happen. It's not Frozen 3, whatever you like. This you have to understand. Deportation is a reference point to a time where God's people felt that they can just get God on their terms. And when God didn't do what they wanted him to do, guess what they did? They worshiped other gods. Very simple, right? It's like, I want God to do something. If he doesn't do it when I want it, guess what I'm doing? I'm changing religion. Or I'm not going to church. Or I'm not believing anymore. because God, we still think, exists for us to use him. And Matthew's like, by the way, before God gives you a new gift, you should know that the last time people thought that they could just use God for their own benefit, they got deported. And deported means it's a reference point to a time where God's people, by a group, a nation people called the Babylonians, were taken out of their land, their homes, their kids, their schools, their everything. And they were put in exile. They were meant to experience a time of what it was like to deal with the consequences of thinking they could just use God whenever they wanted him. This is the beginning of Christmas for Matthew. I mean, it's a weird way to start like the Christmas story. When do we sing, "Oh, holy night"? Like, when does that happen? And he's like, no, let's not speed up here. Let's just understand that this backstory is going to help you be ready to receive the gift that God has for you properly. So that you understand that this is not a gift that you can just use the way you're used to using gifts. That this is a gift that enters our world and changes you and reminds you that God has made you for his purposes. And that he wants to use you to be the light of the world according to the world that he's created. That's kind of the struggle of it all. And so Matthew does this, and he kind of leaves us in this moment. And I'm always mindful of this in my own life, where there's times in my life where I get impatient with God. Where I'm like, I asked God for that, and I've been waiting, and I've been praying, but it's not happening yet. Like, when's God going to finally, help me with this? Or when's God going to change this? Or when's God going to fix this? When, whatever your moment is. When's the last time you had that kind of tension in your heart? Maybe it was a health issue. That you're like, God, I really need some clarity. I don't know. I'm not sure how to carry this anymore. Maybe it was a financial issue. You think of 2019, and you're like, wow. Like, I had some moments where I was like, God, you really need to do something for us because we're kind of stuck. That God invites us to wait on him and to be careful at the temptation that when he doesn't answer in the way we want, then we start to look for other options. We're like, no, it took too long. Now, you need to know that in this moment, God has kind of not spoken to his people for hundreds of years. And Pastor Mateo did a great job last week at introducing us to the whole tension that's happened. Like, there's 400 years. Now there's this moment that you understand, idolatry and deportation. You feel that? 2 words. Easy to understand? Yes? If you're awake? Yeah? Easy? Okay, now that you know that, you have your Ancestry.com kind of backstory. Okay, this is what we're told next. This is how the birth of Jesus, the Messiah, came about. His mother Mary was pledged to be married to Joseph. But before they came together, she was found to be pregnant through the Holy Spirit. But Joseph, her husband, was faithful to the law and yet did not want to expose her to public disgrace. So he had in mind to divorce her quietly. I mean, this is God's way of saying, hey, you know that deportation thing I told you about? It's about to change now. God is about to do something now and re-enter the story in such a way where a gift is available to you again. And the one who comes is the one that's going to teach you not to turn God into an idol. He's going to teach you that the God that loves you and the God that cares about you is very present and with you, and he's going to teach you things, and he's going to teach you this by reminding you to be careful about the things you want that are not the right kinds of things. And so we're introduced to this beautiful moment, Matthew's version of it, is we're introduced to good old Joseph. Joseph doesn't get a lot of press at Christmas, right? We don't have a lot of parts for Joseph. And next week we'll talk this a little bit more about this when the kids share. But Joseph for me is kind of a man's man. The church is in real crisis in some contexts, where we're just missing men to be men. What I mean by that is just people who do the right thing when nobody's looking. The people who care about other people even when they're hurt. Joseph is in this moment, we're introduced to him in this moment, that he realizes that his wife, Mary, is kind of implicated in some strange thing. She's having a baby, she told him she's having a baby, and he's like, listen, I know you believe in God, Mary, and I know you've been praying, but that's not how babies happen. Okay? It's science. I know you think, people in the Bible didn't have science. It's ridiculous. They know how babies work. They know. They don't have YouTube. They can't check it all, but they know. Joseph knows. And Joseph knows that this is a big deal. And we're told that he's like really not sure what to do. And Matthew tells us this wonderful little line. I don't know if you thought, like he's thinking about how to divorce her quietly. How do you divorce someone quietly? Like, how do you do that? Do you just keep going to parties and pretend like you're together? Like, what do you do? It's really strange language, right? But the Bible's trying to emphasize that there's something about Joseph's heart that no matter how hurt he is and how confused he is, he's still thinking about Mary and the situation because he's faithful to the law. He's trying to be a good man. He's trying to be a good father. And I mean, I'm sure he thought one day I might have a son, and this is not how he planned it. And so Joseph comes to us through Matthew's perspective by being really torn in this moment on what to do. And so he decides, like, what would I do? Like, what am I supposed to believe? Is my wife lying to me? I mean, I wish the Christmas story was very clean, but you read about it and it's very messy. There's going to be times this Christmas where you're going to be in a situation and you won't know what to do. You won't know what to say. You won't know how to respond. And I'm going to pray that you would maybe be open to God teaching you something in that moment. The way he's going to teach Joseph something new that he does not expect. Joseph does not expect what's about to happen next, but he's going to have to trust God. And in this moment, Joseph is going to learn what it means to wait on God. He's really going to have to wait for God to reveal to him how this is all going to unfold. And God actually comes to Joseph in this moment and he says that to him. He says, Joseph, just wait just a sec. That's what he says through the angel. After Joseph had considered this, an angel of the Lord appeared to him in a dream and said, Joseph, son of David, do not be afraid to take Mary home as your wife, because what is conceived in her is from the Holy Spirit. She will give birth to a son, and you are to give him the name Jesus, because he will save his people from their sins. God says to Joseph what he says to all of us. Would you just trust me and wait? Would you just do that? Think of someone that you know that's good at waiting. Anyone come to mind? Nobody. Nobody that I know. Now, if you have small kids, you know they're the worst at waiting. And as you get older, you think, I'm going to get better at this, but you don't. And so it always really confuses you that you're more like a child than you thought. Right? So there's this moment where God says to Joseph, will you wait and trust me now? Wait. Now, how long does he have to wait? Yeah, if we go through the whole thing, 9 months. But at first he's like, Mary, how are you feeling? Is it happening? Like, think about this moment every day. Did it happen? Did it happen? She's like, yeah, it's starting to happen. I think it's real. He has to learn what it means to wait on God in a time where it was easy for him to be like, this is insane. I had a weird dream. I don't believe in dreams. This is weird. I'm going to go on and I'm going to just move on. She was a good girl and it didn't work out. God is calling each of us to wait in a new way this Christmas. I really want you to understand that Joseph is the great picture in the Bible of what it means to wait on God properly. Okay? I want you to just understand this. That this morning, there's really two types of people that I want you to feel and live in tension with. Joseph, who teaches us how to wait and how to trust God as we wait, even though we're not sure how it's all going to turn out. And Matthew's about to introduce us to another person who doesn't know how to wait. Okay? And we're going to get a chance at the end of the sermon, the end of this morning, to ask ourselves, which person are we more like? Are you someone who's learning how to wait on God as you see things around you and you're not even sure how it's all going to come together? Can you do that? To be honest, there's times in my life where I'm really good at that. And there's other times where I'm horrible. I'm like, I can't wait. I'm going to maybe do it my own way. And I have to, just a confession time. I've noticed this crazy habit develop in my life. Maybe it's happened to you. It's this habit that is reminding me that I tend to be impulsive when I have to wait. Now, I'll tell you how I noticed it. A little while ago, I was with my kids and I was playing and we were watching TV. And how many of you, most of the time, you're watching TV and there's no commercials, right? Like, even trying to explain commercials to somebody, they're like, what is that? What is that? Commercials, right? Like, even 3 seconds on the YouTube button, you're like losing your mind, right? I hate this. We have this whole thing called Netflix. There's no commercials. And I was actually trying to explain to my kids, Hey, when I was a kid, we had to watch like commercials and they're looking at me like, Dad, like how old are you? Like, are you a dinosaur? How do you even spell commercial? What is that? I'm like, listen, kid. Okay, no, I didn't say that. It's crazy, like the fact that you have to wait. And so I noticed this thing that happens to me, that whenever I have to wait for something, even I pick up my phone or my tablet. So I have it in me, there's an impulse that gets triggered in me to grab something even while I'm learning like to wait. So I started to notice this. So I take devices and I leave them away from me so that when I'm feeling the waiting moment, I quickly look for my device and I'm like, I gotta just learn how to be okay and wait here. Think about how many times you felt that you should pick up your phone now while you've been in church. Right now, you're like, can I check it now? Is he still looking at us? I'm gonna check it now, Right? If you are not careful, we, all of us together, live in a world that fuels impulsiveness while we're learning to wait. It fuels the ability to make waiting something you shouldn't ever have to do. And even if you're waiting for something to happen, like I'm waiting for my show to start, I will find something to put in the place of waiting so I don't feel like I'm waiting. I want to check something, I want to look at something, I'll do it again. So for the next few weeks, I'm going to encourage you to do this. When you come to church, leave your phone in your car. Some of you are already getting a rash. Some of you are like, did Dom lose his mind? We're changing religion. Like this is not, think about it. I thought about this. I'm like, is there a time where I just take my phone? Because that's the most common technological thing that does this. For you, it might be like, I'm going to leave my kids in the car. No, I'm kidding. It's a joke. It's the idea that whatever it is in your life, like you notice that there's this impulsive thing that's like, I'm not getting what I want. It didn't happen yet. I'm going to go to something else. There's been times in my life where that was food. I'm waiting. I'm not sure where. I'm just going to get something to eat. And I would just go get something. I'm like, now I have to intentionally be like, that waiting thing is happening. I'm just going to sit here and be okay with waiting. Let's just wait. Because it's in the waiting that God teaches us to want the right things. Say that again. It's in the waiting that God teaches us to want the right things. And He corrects the things that are not from Him. So notice this in your life in the next few weeks, how impulsive you will be. When like, why am I waiting? Why am I waiting for anything? Waiting is the secret gift of Christmas. That's why we call this period Advent, by the way. And even in saying Christmas, I shouldn't, because Advent is a period of waiting with expectation that God is going to do what He said He's going to do. And Joseph is going to wait. And he's going to wait and trust God. And Matthew says he's going to wait. And the next time, okay, just if you write down anything, write it down. The next time God speaks to Joseph in the story, it's going to be to warn him about a person who did not know how to wait. It's going to be about the next person in the next part of the chapter who's the most powerful person in all of the Christmas story. The most powerful political person that we're introduced to outside of the Emperor of Rome. That in the story we're introduced to a person named Herod the Great. And Herod models what it's like to not learn how to wait. He models what it's like that when you have power, you don't have to wait. You get what you want. We all know this. How many of you work for somebody who's the boss? Right? You know that if you're the boss, you don't wait. It's just the way it is. It's like, I get what I want when I want it. And we have a tendency that gets fueled that way. So I want you to hold in your heart, Joseph, now having to wait. God has spoken to him. God has heard his prayer. God knows what's going on. And now Joseph is going to wait. Wait and pay attention to the impulsive way. Joseph, just like us, it's like, is it happening? Is it true? Do we tell somebody where to go? All that stuff. That's not in the notes, but it's there. They're living that. And the next chapter, Matthew introduces us to Herod. And this is what we're told when Herod hears about the same news. It says this: during the time of King Herod, Magi from the east came to Jerusalem and asked, "Where is the one who has been born King of the Jews?" When King Herod heard this, he was disturbed, and all Jerusalem with him. Now, I don't have a long time to talk about this, and if you missed it last week, you can watch it online. Pastor Mateo talked a little bit about Herod, and Herod's just a crazy power machine. Like, he's really a powerful ruler. And there's a sense that for Herod, he needs to figure out as quickly as possible who this new child is. And he's left in this moment where it's like, how does someone with so much power not know this already? God is about to expose that the gift that he gives us at Christmas is not something that the powerful will understand. The gift that God gives to us at Christmas is hard to understand if you're used to being in control. Because remember, it's not a gift that you can use. It's a gift you have to welcome. If you like being in control, Christmas should disturb you. If you like being in charge of things, Christmas should kind of bother you. It's not a Merry Christmas for you. It should not be a Merry Christmas. If you can still say Merry Christmas, you don't understand Christmas. Because at Christmas, God comes to crush things in us that make us believe that somehow we're in control. Because when we're in control, we think God works for us. When we're in control, we think God's there for us. When we're in control, we think of ways of how we can use God for our benefit. So Herod's like, whoa, wait a second. Like there's these magi, they're coming from out of town, they know stuff, I don't know stuff, what's going on? And so Herod does a little meeting. If you read the story, read it, chapter 2. He calls out all his crew. It's like, hey guys, you're a Bible scholar, you know the Bible, you know the Hebrew Bible, you come. I have a meeting, I'll feed you lunch, let's go. He meets, he's like, any of you hear about any of this? Any of you see a star? Is there an ancient prophecy about this kid? Now think about them. Like if they say yes, what does Herod do? Yeah, it's like, you knew and you didn't tell me. So they're like, no, we don't really know, maybe. You can read it, it's amazing. And then all of a sudden, Herod's like, okay, I can't wait much longer. Like, we can't wait. What am I going to do? You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to come up with a plan. Right? What impulsive living is like. Like, I know what I'm going to do. Forget about waiting. I'm going to figure out, I'm going to have a private meeting with these magi. This is what we're told. Then Herod called the magi secretly and found out from them the exact time the star had appeared. And he sent them to Bethlehem and said, go and search carefully for the child. As soon as you find him, report to me, so that I too may go and worship him. This is great. People who don't know how to wait on God have no problem lying. They don't. Herod's just going to lie about worship. He doesn't want to worship this child. And actually, if he's a real Jew, he knows he's not allowed to worship a child, because that would be called what? Idolatry. And Matthew tells us you don't want to do that again because you'd be deported. So Herod already is just saying, like, yeah, we'll worship him when you find him. It's going to be fine. Because he doesn't know now that God is going to teach him to wait. What do you think Herod does as he waits? What do you think he's doing? I'd be losing my mind. I'm like, I've never had a moment in my life where I didn't get what I wanted. God's like, it's about to happen. Like, does anybody know? Is anybody going to tell me? How long? Did we hear from these magi? Did they get back to us? And if you know the story, we're told that Herod, in this most impulsive moment, begins a form of genocide. Do you know how bad you have to be at waiting to think that the solution is killing people? Do you know how bad? Do you know how broken inside you have to be at not being able to trust God, to have to be so in control that when you don't get your way, you think of how to hurt people, how to gossip, how to start rumors, how to spread dissension? Do you know how broken you have to be? How is it that I can't use God for my benefit? How is this? Where is this child? How come you guys don't know yet? He's like, I can't wait anymore. I'm not waiting anymore. So we're told happens. It's a part of the story. When they, the Magi, had gone, an angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph. Get up, he said, take the child and his mother and escape to Egypt. Stay there until I tell you, for Herod is going to search for the child to kill him. So he got up, took the child and his mother during the night and left for Egypt. Matthew tells us about two people who had to learn how to wait. Joseph is going to wait with his heart hoping and restoring and praying and waiting for God to do what he's going to say he's going to do. Herod is a person who uses his waiting to let his impulses get the best of him. How will you wait this Christmas? How is God teaching you to learn to wait in a new way? Because we all know that waiting doesn't just change things magically. Waiting doesn't make Joseph less afraid. You can wait and do all the wrong things as you wait. But Christmas is that beautiful time where God says, I'm going to teach you how to wait. I'm going to teach you how to wait with your heart more focused on me. I'm going to teach you how to wait in such a way where you can learn to hear my voice better. I'm going to teach you how to wait so your trust in me gets stronger. This is going to be one of the most difficult yet important lessons we teach the next generation. It will. Because if they do not learn this lesson by watching us wait, they will walk away from their faith. They will just walk away when they get to an age where God doesn't do what they wanted God to do. You know where they get that from? From a generation who can easily teach people that God is there to be used. That usually leads to deportation. That usually leads to God saying, what are you doing? Didn't you tell your kids, didn't you pass on to the next generation that I'm the God that exists and they exist for me? Did you not tell them that? So this is a beautiful time for families, for us as a church, for us to wrestle with this question. Am I going to wait like Joseph or I'm going to wait like Herod? Now, Herod is easy to just ignore because I'm not that bad. I'm like, who really waits like Herod? Like, really? I met some mean people in life, but they're not like Herod. But think about how easily and impulsive it can be in your own life. To be like, how come this didn't happen? How come you didn't do that? How come I didn't get what I wanted? How come it didn't work itself out? How come? And God says, I have a gift for you. Oh, this Christmas, I have such a special gift for you. Before you can really receive it, you have to learn how to wait. You have to learn how to trust me in your waiting. Do you want that gift? Do you want God to show you ways in your life where you might be impulsive? Ways that you're like, I just have to have what I want? Well, think about all year as a church, what we encourage you to do. We encourage you to be generous. It kills the impulsive of getting what you want. We teach you to pray. Teaches you to wait on God and trust Him even if you don't know the details. Some of you know how important it is to fast. Think about just fasting and saying, you know what, I'm not going to eat one day this week, just to practice the impulsive nature of food. That I'm hungry, I should eat. It's just so difficult even to teach ourselves. Like my kids will be like, oh, I'm starving. And I'm like, we even use language that's so like starving. My kids don't even know how to spell starving. Like we're so impulsive. How come I didn't get it? Christmas, God says, I have a gift for you. And I have a picture in the scriptures of two people. One models the right way to wait and one models the wrong way to wait. You get to pick one. I'm going to pray, and I'm going to have the team just come up and do just the last song for us so that we can respond. By the way, sometimes I always feel conflicted at this part of the service because the team plays, and it's like, oh, why did we tag on a song? Like, couldn't we just leave now? As if like we're just trying to waste your time. Right? We do it so that you have a chance to respond. Where you have a chance to say, you know what, as I leave here, I'm going to pay attention to the ways I wait that look more like Herod's ways. I'm going to ask God to heal something in me so I can learn to wait the way Joseph models waiting on God. I don't know what responding looks like for you. But a few months ago, I read this quote, and I can't remember where I read it, so it's not for me. The quote's not for me, but I still wanted to use it, and I want you to see it. This is the quote that really helped me understand this. It says, when God seems to be moving slowly, He's often preparing us for when He calls us to move suddenly. Joseph is the great example of this. That oftentimes we just wait for waiting's sake. Some of you have been waiting too long, by the way. You're still waiting because you don't have the courage to just do what God's going to tell you to do. That's not what this sermon is about. Waiting doesn't equal being lazy. Waiting is the place where God teaches us to be obedient. They're different. And oftentimes in church, we can get to the place where I'm just waiting and waiting. I'm like, are we done waiting? People, I'm just praying. I'm like, you can stop praying now. Just do what God told you to do. We have all these tricks that we use to not have to do anything. But Joseph models what it's like to wait, and now what it's like to suddenly get his wife together and to go. So how are you waiting in this season? And might God be saying, hey, your waiting is coming to an end now. It's time for you to step up and do what I'm calling you to do next. It's time for you to respond. It's time for you to answer. It's time for you to trust me in a new way. I have no idea what the next few months holds for you. I have no idea. But as you wait during this season, just say, God, remind me how easy it is to be impulsive in my waiting. To think I should get my way, or it's not working, or even in my waiting, I find a way to do something else, to not listen to you. Just take 30 seconds now before the band leads us. Just wait. Just close your eyes and wait. God, we thank you for the gift of waiting, that sacred space where you teach us to listen to you better, where you remind us that you are not the God that can be used. This Advent season, as we move towards Christmas, Father, show us how you want to use us for your glory. Protect us from idolatry. We thank you for Mary and for Joseph, who still to this day model for us what it means to wait with redemptive expectation. Thank you, Father. We thank you for the warnings in Scripture of the destructive way that waiting can make us impulsive. Heal us. Pray for those who are here, maybe who are listening. We need the courage to move now. You've spoken to them in their waiting. And now you tell them to go. And that the strength that they need is available to them. Help us to respond appropriately this morning as we sing this song together. Please stand.